welcome everybody. Well, we still got lots of people coming in, so I'm going to just try to keep everybody coming. And welcome everyone. Kali Sarakosti. My name is Father Ted Paraskevopoulos. Really happy to have all of you here. I'm here at St. Constantine and Helen in Toronto. I can see that we have lots of people. Whoa, like over 40 so far. That's a lot. That's good. From all over the place. And it's really nice to see all of you, especially since many of us haven't seen each other for a very long time. Today we are having a little presentation, at least through Zoom, to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Greek Independence Day. We have with us also His Grace, Bishop Athinagoras, who is also the Dean of our Patriarchal Toronto Orthodox Theological Academy. I don't know if you can see him. I will spotlight him in a sec. He will be doing our opening prayer. Actually, I'll ask His Grace right now. I'm just going to spotlight you. If you can unmute yourself and do the opening prayer for us, Your Grace, and then I'll introduce the rest of the priests on the committee who arranged this little presentation.
Okay. Glory to the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly King, Comforter, the Spirit of Truth, who art everywhere present and fillest all things, treasury of every good and bestower of life, come and dwell in us and cleanse us from every stain, and save our souls, O good one. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Let me start with conveying His Eminence's sincere congratulations about this meeting, and personally to thank all the good priests that worked for it, especially Father Theodoros, who did most of the job. I won't be taking any much time, so we can proceed.
Thank you, Your Grace. I'm just going to switch here. Okay, thank you. His Grace is accurate that we have a group of fellow priests who helped out with this, but it was really His Grace's idea to kind of put together this wonderful little kind of project of being able to pay tribute to Greek Independence Day, and especially the 200th anniversary, especially in a year where we haven't been able to kind of celebrate the way that we want to. And so we do really thank him for kind of taking this initiative. Together with us today, we have our committee that kind of worked on all this and put together the material that all of you will be watching and experiencing today. With us is Father Theologos Drakos, who's at Prophet Ilia in Mississauga. We have Father Konstantinos Ikonomou, who's up in St. Panteleimona in Markham, Ontario. We have Father Fanurios Papas, who's at Metamorphosis down on Danforth. And of course, Father Apostolos Golias, who's our new arrival from Greece, who's the new priest at St. Nicholas, my home parish in Scarborough. And I do welcome all of them. The five of us together have kind of been working over the last few weeks on this little humble presentation. The fathers have done a lot of the research going into speaking about different parts of the Greek War of Independence. And basically the way our presentation is going to go today, we want it to be a little bit interactive as much as we can within the hour that is allotted to us. So this is kind of the program that we're going to go. We have 4 videos, very short videos, 5 to 6 minutes each to show you, dealing with different parts of the Greek Revolution, a little bit about the history of the Greeks under the Ottoman Empire, a little bit about the spark of the revolution and those people who organized it, a little bit about some of the main battles that took place during the revolution, and of course a little bit about our national anthem and our flag and how that evolved. So what we're going to do is, I know there are a lot of us right now. There are almost 50 people on the Zoom right now, which is quite a bit. What we'll do is, and more people are coming in, we're going to show, we'll show one video. We'll introduce one video. I will introduce who kind of put it together, and then we'll show it. And then once the video is done, we will allot about 5 minutes of question Q&A for that particular video. And then we'll move on to the next video. We will also have extra time at the end of the Zoom for extra questions. So if you guys have any questions, I do ask that you type them into the little chat, because if everybody opens their microphones and starts asking, we're going to have a lot of feedback and we won't be able to hear anybody, right? So try to post at the end of your video or even during the video questions that you have. After every video, I think we're only going to have time for maybe 2, maybe 3 questions, and then we have to move on to the next one. But we can also answer questions at the end, as I said. So again, type in your questions about each section that you want to hear. And then, of course, the brother priest who put together that the information from the video will try to answer it, as well as any of the other brother priests who are available here. So with that, having said that, I will start the first video, which is part 1, which is entitled 400 Years of Slavery. So bear with me for a sec, guys.
The Greeks had been living under the Ottoman Empire for 400 years. During this time, the Greeks organized around their local communities under 2 main authorities: their culture and their faith. Language and Christianity gave the Greeks a sense of identity, an identity that was often threatened by the Ottoman Empire's Islamic culture, which continuously pressured the population to abandon both their language and religion in favor of Islam. Regardless of these pressures, there were key figures and institutions that played a significant role in maintaining Greek identity during these dark years. Perhaps the most important figure during the occupation was Saint Cosmas et Olos. Saint Cosmas was born in Aetolia of Arta, in northwestern Greece, in about 1714. Raised by simple and devout parents, at the age of 20, he went to study on Mount Athos. He took up the monastic habit at Philotheo Monastery, and because of his devotion and ascetic struggle, was quickly ordained a priest. Recognizing that the Greek people were quickly losing their language and faith, Saint Cosmas, after receiving the blessing of Patriarch Sophronius II, began to travel throughout Greece, preaching, establishing Greek schools, and inspiring his fellow countrymen not to abandon their Greek Orthodox identity. Eventually, the Ottoman Pasha, seeing that Saint Cosmas had the affection and support of the people, decided to put him to death. On August 24th, 1779, at the age of 65, 7 soldiers pretended to escort Saint Cosmas to the Pasha, but on the road stopped and told him he had already been sentenced to death. His hanging played a major role in awakening the faith of the oppressed Greek people, preparing the road for the revolution of 1821. In addition to Saint Cosmas, many other saints inspired the Greek people. Individuals such as Saint Christos the Gardener, arrested in Constantinople in 1748 and pressured to convert to Islam, later to be beaten, imprisoned, and finally beheaded. Saint George of Ioannina, wrongfully accused of being a Muslim and having abandoned his faith for Christianity, an offense punishable by death under Islamic law, was hung on January 17, 1838. And Saint Philothea of Athens, patron saint of the Philoptochos Society, known for her philanthropic work among the poor, was beaten to death on February 19, 1589. In addition to such courageous individuals, the phenomenon of the Krifos Scholio, or secret school, provided a place for Greeks to learn, maintain, and pass on their language and faith from generation to generation. Clergy, often taking the role of teacher, would organize secret locations, usually under the cover of night, and away from the prying eyes of the Ottomans, where they could educate the children of their villages. Because general education was outlawed by Turks, this was the only way that the Greeks could maintain their identity. It is because of the faith, courage, organization, and ingenuity of such individuals and institutions that the Greeks were able to maintain their language and faith over a period of 400 years. Truly a remarkable feat that laid the groundwork for the time of revolution.
Okay. So, all right. So I'm just going through this person's presentation and this particular research was put together by Father Konstantinos Ikonomou at St. Pantaleimon, and I hope he's unmuted. If he can unmute himself as well, Father. And I'm going to see if there's any questions, or if anybody does have any questions. I don't see anything in the chat yet. Or if somebody does want to ask a question, I would say unmute yourselves and ask it, but I'm afraid since we're almost at 60 people online right now, that it might be a little bit crazy. But if we have any questions, let me know. And if we don't have any, then I guess we'll move on to the next video. So I'll just give it a couple of minutes. If anybody has a question, they can unmute, or any of the children from the Sunday schools have a question about the 400 years of slavery. Spotlight, Father Costa. No? All right. Well, if there's no questions, and you can always leave them till the end, Father Costa, you're off the hook.
I'll say one small thing.
Sure.
I thought it was very interesting to research about the new martyrs, because many times we know about the bigger martyrs, the bigger saints. We know about St. George, we know about St. Catherine, but St. Christo the gardener that we just heard about was something as simple as trying to live his life under Turkish occupation, and he went to sell apples in the market. And the Turkish came up to him, basically tried to rip him off, or said that he got ripped off, and went over to the Turkish authorities and basically gave up. Said that he said he's a Muslim and he's not, and so Saint Christo had to stand up for his faith and boldly say that I am a Christian, and he had to even endure imprisonment and martyrdom. And so basically the simplest thing is not even be able to lead our daily lives in normal ways, in small ways, going to the grocery store, seeing our family. These things were outlawed under Turkish occupation and were an offense that you could be put to death for if you didn't follow and you didn't, when you were something wrong, that you had to call and renounce your faith. And so all of these new martyrs, all of these simple people stood up for their faith, and it's a beautiful thing. Sorry, I hear feedback.
Okay, Father Costa, just unmute yourself. You can continue. Sorry, some people had their microphones on.
Sure. Sorry. So yeah, that was the biggest one. Saint Christo. Saint George of Ioannina was someone who took care of stables of horses, and the same thing. Someone accused of him saying he was a Muslim when he wasn't, and again he had to stand up for his faith. Saint Philophe, again being from a rich family, denouncing all of her wealth in order to take care of those who were struggling, just like she was struggling, and to help them stand up and to confess Christ, and to stand up for their culture and their faith, as we saw in the video before. So thank you, Father Ted, for putting together the information that we researched, and again, His Grace for taking the initiative for this. Any other questions?
I don't see any in the chat right now, Father, but if we have any other ones, we'll keep them for the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Father, and we'll move on now to the next presentation, which is part 2 of our series, and it is called The Spark of Revolution. This video takes a look at how the revolution started, and this was presented and put together, the research was put together by Father Apostolos Golias from St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church here in Scarborough.
As the time of revolution approached, there were key figures who were instrumental in organizing what would later be called the Greek War of Independence. Perhaps the most crucial organization of all these was the Φιλική Εταιρεία, or the Society of Friends. This group played the central role in the uprising of 1821. In the beginning of the 19th century, the notion that Greece had to be liberated after almost 4 centuries of Ottoman rule and a new Greek state should be established was ripe. In 1814, 3 Greeks of the diaspora came together in Odessa, in present-day Ukraine, where a thriving Greek community lived. They formed a secret society with the purpose of initiating an armed uprising to rid Greece of the Ottomans. The 3 founders were Nikolaos Skoufas from Arta, Emmanuel Xanthos from Patmos, and Athanasios Tsakalov from Ioannina. Soon after, they were joined by Panayotis Anagnostopoulos from Adritsena. In addition to these, the Filikiateria recruited mostly wealthy Greeks from Russia, local chieftains from Greece, and Serbs. Two of its early outstanding members were Alexandros Ypsilantis, a prince and high-ranking officer of the Imperial Russian Cavalry; Moldovan Lord Michael Soutsos, the father of modern Serbia, and founder of the Karageorgiev dynasty, Karageorge Petrovich. Future War of Independence leaders such as Theodoros Kolokotronis, Odysseas Androutsos, Dimitris Plapoutas, and the Metropolitan Bishop Germanos of Patras also eventually joined. In 1818, the Filikiateria moved to Constantinople. The year was marked by the death of founding member Nikolaos Skoufos. Xanthos and Tsakalov attempted to find a major personality to take over the leadership of the secret society. They contacted Alexandros Ypsilantis and offered him leadership, which he took up in April of 1820. Ypsilantis started preparations for an armed revolt, which was initially proposed to start in Constantinople, but was later revised to start in the Peloponnese. Ypsilantis recruited many untrained fighters, while at the same time he called on Greeks living in other countries to contribute in any way they could to the liberation war. On February 24, 1821, Ypsilantis sent a prophetic letter to his Filikiateria colleagues, asking them to start the fight or contribute by sending money and supplies for the armed struggle. "Future generations will bless your names and they will praise you," he wrote. His prophetic proclamation was verified by history. In addition to the many Greeks who contributed to the beginning of the revolution, we would not overlook the important role of the Church, chiefly the great courage and sacrifice of Patriarch Gregory V of Constantinople. Gregory was born in the Mitsana Arcadia prefecture in 1746 to poor parents. Having completed studies in Athens, Smyrna, and Patmos, Gregory was ordained to the diaconate in 1775 by Metropolitan Prokopios of Smyrna, and within 2 years to the priesthood. In 1785, he succeeded Metropolitan Prokopios in becoming Bishop of Smyrna, and in 1797 was elected to the patriarchal throne in May of 1797. In 1818, Gregory became a member of the Filikiateria, the Friendly Society, that was preparing for a revolt against the Turkish rule. However, when Alexander Ypsilantis crossed the Prut River, starting the Greek revolt in Romania, Gregory knew it would not be long before the Turkish authorities would punish the Greeks of Constantinople. The reprisals did come during Holy Week in April 1821, after the Greeks revolted in the Peloponnese. During the celebration of the Divine Liturgy on the night of Pascha of April 10th, Gregory was arrested and, by order of Sultan Mahmud II, hanged on the front gate of the Patriarchate compound in his full patriarchal vestments. The gate has been closed, locked, and not used since. After hanging for 3 days and being mocked by the passing crowds, his body was taken down and dragged through the streets of Constantinople before being thrown into the Bosphorus. Gregory's body was recovered from the sea by a Greek seaman, Nicholas Sklavos, and brought secretly to Edessa, where it was buried with honors at the Church of the Holy Trinity. Later, his relics were enshrined in the Metropolitan Cathedral in Athens. His statue, along with that of Rigas Phareos, stands outside the University of Athens as great martyrs of the Greek Revolution. The determination of the Filikiateria, along with the courage and faith of individuals like Patriarch Gregory V, inspired the heroes of the revolution who started the revolt a month later on March 25th, as they chanted, "Freedom or death."
Thank you for that, Father. So that was created, and the script was put together, and the research by Father Apostolos Golias. I don't know. I don't see any questions in the chat. I guess people are not either they can't find the chat or they don't have any other questions. Father Apostolos, if you want to unmute yourself, is there anything you wanted to add to the beautiful research that you presented for the beginning of the revolution?
Good afternoon to you all. I'm glad to see you. I hope that you all enjoyed and understood the brief video. I think that we owe much to Greece for who we are today. As for the Friendly Society, it was the beginning for the freedom of Greece. Ζήτω η Ελλάδα.
Father, we have a question in the chat. They asked, what role, if any, did the French Revolution of 1789 to 99 have on the Greek War of Independence?
Οι Γάλλοι το 1789 τι παίξανε, είχαν κάτι να κάνει για την απελευθέρωση για την Ελλάδα.
Ωραία. Η Γαλλία ήταν πάντα φιλικός λαός στην Ελλάδα.
Ήτανε, και είχαν κάτι.
Πες.
Okay. I'm just going to sub in. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Spiro. Ευλογείτε σε όλους τους πατεράδες. Χαίρετε. I'm just going to sub in just to help with the brief explanation from Greek to English translation. Η Γαλλία
ήταν πάντα φιλικός λαός στην Ελλάδα.
Right. The French, they played a significant role because they were, at the time anyways, they were allies and they were very friendly. They were a friendly society with the Greek people at that time.
Είχαν πάρα πολλοί φιλέλληνες Γάλλοι.
Yeah, there were very, very many Greek or actually French people who appreciated the Greek culture and the Greek people. Very friendly at that time.
Και όπως και έγινε.
And how it was done.
Και το ίδιο συμβαίνει και στη συνέχεια και σε άλλους πολέμους. Βλέπουμε ότι η Γαλλία βοηθά την Ελλάδα πάρα πολύ.
And presently, even throughout history, the French always had a form of friendship to help the Greeks throughout life with all wars. Yeah, that's all.
And if I may add also, Father, that the War of Independence of, the French Revolution, the ideas that kind of came out of the French Revolution inspired a lot of young Greek, I guess you could say upper class bourgeoisie Greeks who were able to leave occupied Greece and go into the West to study. So there were Greeks, for example, like Adamatios Korais, Lord Byron, who went to Italy and things like that, who were able to escape because they had money, and they went into the West and they studied in Western countries, and they were able to bring back these types of, ideas of freedom and revolution. And so, yes, definitely the French Revolution, as Father said as well, did influence some of these, founders of the Φιλική Εταιρεία and also the founders of the modern Greek state.
Ένα μεγάλο κομμάτι της Ελλάδας ήταν αμόρφωτο.
Yeah, one of the large parts of Greece was uneducated.
Οφείλουμε την επιτυχία της Ελλάδας, οφείλουμε την επιτυχία της Επανάστασης σε ανθρώπους οι οποίοι είχαν πάει στο εξωτερικό και είχαν σπουδάσει.
Οφείλουμε δηλαδή.
Ευγνωμοσύνη.
Okay. Yeah, there were many who did. Yeah, just like you said, Father Theodoros Paraskevopoulos, many had gone to educate themselves, and they picked up a lot from the Western society that is, in France anyways, and they did become more educated and did bring it back.
Όπως συνέβη και στη Φιλική Εταιρεία.
Yeah, just like the Friendly Society, which was inaugurated.
Οι ιδέες τους και οι σκέψεις τους συνέβαλαν στην απελευθέρωση της Ελλάδας.
Right, their ideas and what they had learned obviously helped the freedom of Greece, or at least the beginning of it and continuation. Yeah.
Thank you, Father. I don't see any other questions right now, but again, as I said, if anybody does have anything more, just write them in the chat and we'll try to get to them at the end. Thank you, Father Apostolo.
Thank you, Father.
Okay, well, moving on to part 3 of of our presentation here. This part is dedicated to the battles and the heroes of the Greek Revolution, and the research was prepared by Father Fanurios Papas, who's at Metamorphosi down in Danforth. So let's watch the video.
Once the revolution had begun, a number of key battles were fought over the course of the next decades. While there are too many to recount, there are a few that stand out in history as pivotal to the success of the Greeks. Perhaps the earliest major conflict was the siege of Tripolitsa. The siege was fought between April and September of 1821 during the early stages of the war. As Greek rebels gained greater control over southern Greece, Ottoman forces reinforced the garrison at Tripolitsa, which was mostly composed of Turkish and Albanian troops. In addition to 12,000 troops under his command, Mustafa Bey, the Ottoman leader at Tripolitsa, was also responsible for several thousand Jewish and Muslim refugees that came into the city seeking safety from the Greek revolutionaries. Once Greek forces had gained control over most of southern and central Greece, General Theodoros Kolokotronis turned his attention to Tripolitsa, the last source of Ottoman resistance in the area. During the first few months of the siege, Greek forces had a difficult time keeping the Ottoman army bottled up in the city. Ottoman cavalry raids frequently poked large holes in the Greek lines, enabling the Ottomans opportunities to find food and supplies for the city's beleaguered residents. These raids effectively came to an end in August of 1821 at the Battle of the Trench, which saw the Ottoman garrison lose a large percentage of its cavalry. As starvation and deprivation became rampant in the city, General Kolokotronis entreated Ottoman leaders to surrender. When negotiations between the two sides failed, the Greeks launched a major assault on the city on September 23rd, cutting down Ottoman resistance and forcing the remainder of the city's defenders to capitulate. In the same year, the Greeks won another decisive battle in the Peloponnese at Vasilika, near Thermopylae. Here, the Greek insurgents managed to destroy an Ottoman relief army on its way to the forces of Omer Vrioni in Attica and captured the supplies and baggage. 800 Turks were killed and 220 captured. Greek trophies included 18 flags, 2 cannons, and 800 horses. The Turks retreated to Lamia, to the north of Thermopylae. This victory prevented the Ottoman army in Attica and Evia to enter the Peloponnese and deliver the Ottoman garrisons besieged by the Greeks. These two victories secured the Peloponnese for the Greeks and was a decisive defeat for the Turks in the area. Another noteworthy battle during the revolution is known as the Third Siege of Mesologi. This was fought between the Ottoman Empire and the Greek rebels from April 15, 1825 to April 10, 1826. The Ottomans had already tried and failed to capture the city in 1822 and 1823, but returned in 1825 with a stronger force of infantry and a stronger navy to support them. The commander of the Ottomans, Rashid Mehmed Pasha, was joined in early 1826 by Ibrahim Pasha, who crossed the Gulf of Corinth. During the early part of 1826, Ibrahim had more artillery and supply brought in. However, his men were unable to storm the walls. The Greek Admiral Andreas Miaoulis kept breaking through the Ottoman naval blockade and bringing in supplies. However, when the Ottomans captured the fortress island of Anatolikon, Miaoulis was not able to continue. The situation soon became desperate for the defenders. After around a year of holding out, the leaders of the Greeks, Notis Botsaris, Kitsos Zavelas, and Makris, made a plan to escape the city. The besieged Greeks decided that some of the menfolk of fighting age should burst out of the gates and attempt to lead the women and children to safety, while the rest would remain to defend the town to the death. Georgios Karaiskakis would attack the Turks from the rear and create a diversion, while the besieged Greeks would escape the city. Of the 9,000 inhabitants, only 7,000 were strong enough to take part. Unfortunately, the Turks had been made aware of the escape plan. When the refugees charged out of the city gates, they were fired upon by Turks and Egyptians from the defensive positions. Many of the Greeks panicked and fled inside the walls. Of the 7,000 people that tried to escape, only 1,000 made it to safety. The next morning, Palm Sunday, the Turks entered the city. Though a military disaster, the siege and its aftermath proved a victory for the Greeks. After this incident, many people from Western Europe felt increased sympathy for the Greek cause, which translated into greater support and political pressure to end Ottoman rule in the region. It should be noted that the Greek War of Independence was fought over many decades. It took a long time before Greece was able to declare independence and free all of its territories from Ottoman rule. An example of this is the Holocaust of the Arkadi Monastery in 1866, almost 50 years after the war had begun. By the mid-19th century, the Ottomans had occupied Crete for more than 2 centuries, despite frequent bloody uprisings by Cretan rebels determined to win independence and union with Greece. During the Cretan Revolt of 1866, the Arkadi Monastery played an active role in the Cretan resistance of Ottoman rule. It was manned by 259 armed men, including 45 monks, and sheltered 943 Greeks, mostly women and children, seeking refuge from the encroaching Turks. On the morning of November 8, 1866, an army of 15,000 Ottomans, equipped with 30 cannons, directed by Turkish commander Suleiman, arrived on the hills of the monastery. Suleiman sent a last request for surrender. However, the Cretans responded with gunfire. The attack was swift. The Cretan defenders, led by Konstantinos Yaboudakis, fought bravely but were outmatched by the size of the Turkish forces. Of the 964 people present at the start of the assault, 846 were killed in combat, 114 men and women were captured, but 3 or 4 managed to escape, including one of the messengers who had gone to seek reinforcements. The Ottomans considered taking Arkadi a victory and celebrated it with cannon fire. However, the tragedy of Arkadi turned world opinion on the conflict. Soon, volunteers from Serbia, Hungary, and Italy arrived on the island. However, it was not until 1898, with the help from Greece and the great powers, England, France, Italy, and Russia, that Crete won its independence and the Turks withdrew from the island. In 1913, the long-fought-for goal was achieved, and Crete was finally united with the rest of Greece.
That was a great outline of some of the battles. There's a lot of battles that happened, of course, because as the video said, there was the fighting happened for over a century. So it's not it started in 1821, but for the better part of a century, it took a very long time to liberate all the different parts of Greece. And so it's not something that just happened in 1821. 1821 was the beginning. And so there are so many different stories. We try to take just some of the main ones to give you an example of some of the Greek heroism that happened. Of course, there's so much more. Father Fanurios, who put together this text, do you want to say anything? I don't see. I'm checking while I check for questions, maybe Father Fanurios can say a few words.
Ναι, πρώτα απ' όλα, thank you so much, Father Theodore, for putting all that together in a beautiful video. And as you said, there are many, many more battles in every city, in every village of Greece that miracles happened through the heroism. And we admire that. And of course, from all that, we understand and we feel how much weak we are today, and how can we compare with all that heroism and all that these personalities that we just saw and felt the power. And I hope that if we are going to face a threat like that in our age, to find the courage to do what they did.
Father, we have 2 questions for you. One is I don't know who it came from. It's a nice one. It says, did the Greeks actually wear the clothes they are depicted on in all those pictures?
Yes, I think they did, because the clothes of the days of that age, and it is what we respect today when we wear our traditional costumes to celebrate the national day.
And the second question is, in this video, the speaker said that one of the fundamental battles was fought in 1825. So why did we celebrate 200 years of Greek independence this year, 1821? As stated in the video, the struggle continued for decades.
Well, as you said previously, Father Theodore, the many regions of Greece, they continue to fight against the Ottoman Empire, and like Crete, for example, was later united with Greece, or some of the islands and some other parts. But officially, Greece was considered independent country, a state, 1821.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the beginning that we're marking, not the end of the Epanastasis. And so it's, yeah, and even Bishop Thinagora said, he wrote here, Macedonia and Thrace were liberated in 1912. So almost 100 years after, 90 years. So yeah, it took a long time, but we are just celebrating the beginning. That's why, in the last video, we called it the spark of the revolution. It's the beginning.
It was the official declaration of the revolution.
Yes.
21.
Okay, and also somebody wrote here, and this is actually interesting because it's going to be mentioned in the next video. I believe Mani declared war against the Ottoman yoke in 1817, and that is correct. Mani, Maniatis, they did declare war a little bit earlier, and they actually, that small section of Peloponneso actually freed themselves. It was a very small pocket, but they were actually free before everybody else, and they pride themselves in reminding people that. So that's true as well. But as far as a united, concerted effort by all the Greeks everywhere, this is kind of like what we're celebrating today. The organized, revolution of the whole country. Okay, and yeah. Okay, so there's no more questions for now. We do have a few for the end, but I think we'll move on to the next video. Father, thank you very much for all your hard work. And now we will go on to our last video of the day, which is part 4, which speaks about our flag and our anthem, a little bit of the history of those two things. This text was prepared by Father Theologos Drakos from Profitilia, Mississauga. So let's take a look at that. It is important to remember that the one thing that all national flags have in common is that they were not created in one day. Most national flags have been developed over a long period of time, and Greece's flag is no exception. We will now take a look at the evolution of our national symbol, the different local flags that emerged during the War of Independence, and how we came to receive this modern flag and hold it in such high esteem. Let's take a look. This flag was flown between 1431 and 1619. It is the flag of the Greek Sipahi cavalry units serving under the Ottoman army. They were allowed to use this flag as their symbol while being in the regions of Epirus and Peloponnesos. This flag was flown by the Greeks who were still slaves under the Ottoman Empire. In 1770 to 1820, this flag appeared in 1869 during the uprising against the Ottoman rule. It is based on similar designs on many variations during the revolutionary period. This flag was most widely used during this period by revolutionary armies of Greece. It is perhaps one of the most well-known designs from the revolutionary period. This flag from 1776 to 1821 is the autonomous state of Mani. This region of the Peloponnese gained its freedom before the Greek War of Independence in 1821, and this flag has been used by the Mani leaders and revolutionary armies. This flag, between 1800 and 1821, appeared in central Greece as the war banner of Athanasios Diakos, who was a Greek war hero during the War of Independence from the Ottomans. It has been used by his army, generals, and his followers. This flag, perhaps one of the most popular ones, between 1814 and 1822, is of the Filiki Eteria, or the Society of Friends, under which the members of the society were taking the oath for the freedom of Greece. The purpose of the society was the organization for the establishment of an independent Greek state. This flag, also flown between 1820 and 1821, was of the secret band. Under this flag, the first organized Greek army of volunteer Greek students fought the Ottoman army in Wallachia. It has been delivered to them by Alexandros Ypsilantis. This flag, also flown at the same time, is from the island of Hydra. After the Russian-Turkish War among the Greek islands, Hydra was allowed to use its own flag on merchant navy fleet ships. This flag was raised during the War of Independence of Greece when the merchant navies converted to the Greek National War Navy. This flag, also flown at the same time, is from the island of Spetses. After the Russian-Turkish War, among the Greek islands, Spetses was allowed to use its own flag on merchant navy fleet ships as well, and this flag was also raised during the War of Independence of Greece. This flag was from the island of Sara. Similar to the two previous islands of the Aegean, Sara put their strong navy to the national focus for freedom. The island and its population have been completely destroyed by Ottoman forces on July 4th, 1821. The national flag of Greece, as it has been adopted by the National Assembly of Epidavros in January 1822. This flag has replaced all the local revolutionary flags and became the flag of the independent Greece. The flag of the Kingdom of Greece has been adopted during the periods on which the government had been a democratic state with a king, between 1864 to 1924 and between 1935 to 1970. Greece has abolished permanently the king, and after a referendum in 1974. From 1970 to 1975, this flag has been adopted by later years of the military junta in Greece as the national flag of Greece. The design, though, exists since the first years of the War of Independence as the naval ensign of Greece since 1822. From 1975 and on, this is the national flag of the Republic of Greece. A word should also be said about the history of our national anthem. When you think of Greek national pride, the things that come to mind are both the Greek flag and the national anthem, rich in symbolism and reminders of what the Greek people had to go through to gain their freedom. This anthem represents what modern-day Greece is all about. Officially titled Hymnos istin Eleftheria in Greek and the Hymn to Liberty or Hymn to Freedom in English, this song is a reminder of not only how far Greece has come since the Ottoman Empire was officially defeated, but also the journey that the people took that ultimately led to their freedom. Here's a look at the history and the biographical details of the iconic Greek national anthem. The Greek national anthem was written by the famed poet Dionysios Solomos in 1823. He was born and raised in Zakynthos, but his family were refugees from the island of Crete. As a member of a prominent wealthy family, Dionysios was well educated, which eventually drove him to become a poet. Although he studied abroad in Italy for several years, he eventually penned his poems in his native Greek language. The Hymn to Liberty wasn't the only poem he wrote, but it is the most famous. He wrote in a specific style, which is referred to as the Heptanese style of poetry, that originated from the Heptanese school of literature, or literally the literature school of the Seven Islands. It is also referred to as the Ionian school. When it came time to write the Hymn to Liberty, he didn't initially realize that it would become part of the national anthem. His motivation was to create a poem that honored those who fought for Greece's independence. Once it was written, it was immediately embraced by the people, and the first two stanzas eventually became our national anthem. The Greek Revolution began in 1821 and was going on as he began his career as a poet. In addition to being the revolution that finally ended the Ottoman occupation, it served as a source of inspiration for his poem. Solomos wanted to put to words the feelings that he had about the struggles of the Greek people and inevitably of their win. Once the poem was released to the public, it struck a nerve with the people. In fact, many people interpreted the poem as a battle cry. This is what is meant when translated into English. I recognize by the fearsome sharpness of your sword. I recognize you by your face that violently defines the land. From the sacred bones of the Hellenes arisen, a valiant again as you once were. Hail, O hail, liberty. The words were a source of inspiration to the people who devoted themselves to the fight. It effectively touched on not only the struggles that the people faced because of the Ottomans, but also of their fight towards victory. The Greek people were tired of being oppressed, and it was time to change all that. Over time, the poem was eventually set to music. This poem, which was set to music by Nikolaos Manzoros, a composer from Corfu, was first adopted as the Cretan national anthem in 1864 before they joined Greece. Currently, it is both the national anthem of Greece, adopted in 1865, and the anthem of Cyprus, adopted in 1866. Even though the Cypriot constitution actually makes no mention of an official national anthem, the Hymn to Liberty is still officially considered the anthem. Today, the national anthem is always played during official occasions put forth by the Greek government. It is also played at sporting events and has a prestigious place during the closing ceremonies for the Olympic Games. For the Greek people, it is always a reminder of how far they've come since the days of the Ottoman occupation. Zito η Ελλάς, zito η ελευθερία. And as I said, that was prepared by Father Theologos Drakos. We thank him for that. I don't, I'm just trying to go through, and Father Kostekonomou is helping me with the questions as well. I'm trying to read the questions and host at the same time, so it's a little tricky. But I will, Father Theologo, if you want to unmute yourself, I don't know if you have anything to add while I kind of get the questions ready.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for putting that together, Father, and everyone for joining us today. I think a couple of things that kind of struck me. One, when I was doing the research for all of this, I was amazed to see how many different flags there were. Now, I'm pretty old. I was actually born before the flag was actually brought into the official flag of the Republic of Greece, which I didn't realize at the time when I was doing the research. I thought the flag of Greece was there since the time of the ancient Greeks. I think most of us probably thought that the flag was there for many, many years, way before 1975, which it was there, as it was mentioned in the presentation, from early on in the revolution, one of the flags, but it wasn't the flag as we saw. So I was amazed at how many different flags, and which meant, of course, that there were many different parts of Greece that were kind of independent but part of Greece. And so it was very interesting to find out how many different flags there were. And then, of course, we settled, and I saw one comment in there that there was a cross on all the flags. And of course, on all the flags, there was a cross used because of our faith, not only of our country as Greeks, but also obviously our faith in our God as Orthodox Christians. The second thing that kind of struck me was that the writer of the national anthem, though he was writing a poem, was someone outside of Greece. He was from Greece, but he studied outside of Greece, which pretty much means all of us. And that means that we too can have such an influence. And you even saw in the presentations before how many of the people, Greeks and non-Greeks from outside of Greece, came in to help the liberation of Greece. And I just think it's important for us to realize that though we may not be in Greece, we can have a huge influence on our Greek culture, our national heritage, and our pride. And I think it's important that we do so because, well, it's exactly from these type of people that our revolution was successful. And that's what I wanted to add. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Father. I don't see any actual. One question is, why did the flag colors change? I don't even know if.
Well, there was some discussion about the official that we have, the official flag that we have now. What hue of blue? That kind of rhymes. What hue of blue is actually supposed to be used, and there really isn't an official color of blue or type of blue that is supposed to be used. But generally speaking, you'll see that there are darker ones and lighter shades of blue that are used, and but there isn't an official color or hue of blue that is used.
All right, thank you for that.
We still have hands.
Hands?
Yeah, Ivan Liadis.
Okay. I don't see the hands for some reason on my end, but we have a few questions from the before. But if anybody wants, oh, there we go. Yeah, if Evan wants to ask his question, he can go ahead. Evan?
What was the king's name again?
The king's name.
Oh,
The
who remembers the king's name now?
The king of Greece?
Yeah, the king of Greece.
Brothers, you remember the last king's name? I don't.
last one was Constantine.
You know what? That's good research. We're going to do later. Ask about the blue and white if they symbolize something.
Do you know what's the blue and white for?
On the flag?
On the flag?
Yeah, I mean, if you ever been to Greece, you see how beautiful the water is, of course.
And in the white, I think it was like clouds.
What do you think?
Clouds.
Yeah, the sky, the water, it's all part of it, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that, Evan. I don't.
Father Ted?
Yes.
Can we just, I'll help you facilitate there. Father Stavros is asking for Father Theologo, what do the stripes represent on the last flag, on the Hellenic flag?
So there are 9 syllables to the slogan which was used by the leaders of the revolution, Eleftheria y Thanatos, and that means there's 9 syllables and there are 9 stripes. So 1 stripe for each one of the syllables that are used in that slogan.
I also see someone here, Maria. Sorry, Father Ted, I'm jumping in, but the colors specifically sea foam white and sea blue for the flag.
I love our water.
Yeah. The other comment is that
the stripes also refer to the provinces of Greece, as I remember. Like we have Thrace, Macedonia, Epirus, Sterea, Ελλάδα, Peloponnesos, and then we have Ireland, the Dodecannissa, Heptannissa, Cyclades, and Crete. If we count all the different provinces, there are 9. So it's each stripe for each province.
And also, somebody in the chat had also put Presbytera. I think Presbytera Kouloulias. She said that Orthodox was the first king, Otto, and the last one was Constantino, I believe, right? So there's the answer to that one.
Thank you. Thank you. I know what it means. Haya Constantinos.
God bless you.
We have a couple of questions. We're almost out of time, but I think we can answer a couple. There's about 3 questions from before, and maybe we can get to them before we do our closing. We hear the national anthems and do our closing prayer. The first one is somebody asked. I don't know if anyone knows this. I don't know it. What was the population of Greeks back then, like in Greece at the time of the revolution? Anyone know? We're only 13 million now, so I'm guessing much less back then. I don't know the answer.
I'll Google it.
Okay. We'll go on to the next one. This one's a little bit controversial. I think we're going to leave it to our bishop to answer.
It's about the role of Patriarch Gregory V.
Was he against the revolution initially?
We have to understand, first of all, he was 3 times a patriarch, which means that people really wanted him. And of course, the Ottoman Empire government wanted him. So when someone is in a position where he has to take decisions, it's not easy. You understand that he knew about the revolution, okay, and the Society of Friends, Φιλική Εταιρεία. But the issue was like he could not go to the Turks and say, oh yeah, I know about them. So he refused everything, and in his refusal, he also condemned everything about the revolution. He could not say, of course, as you understand, oh yeah, I know them, we're preparing the revolution, and he is preparing, and he, and he, and he. So, of course, you understand, in this way, actually in his first patriarchy, he, by denying the revolution, I've read somewhere like, there was a Turkish army going against a Greek area, and in this way he stopped them, because he said, no, there is no revolution. If there is a revolution, we all condemn it. Now, there are like those 3 opinions, that either really he was against the revolution, or he played the fools, like he tried, of course, to, which is the strongest opinion, or he was in favor and he was trying to hide it, which is against. So what his biographer is writing about him is that, of course, officially, he should condemn and he should have done what he did in order to save Greeks, but at the same time, he was in favor of all and in notion of everything that was happening concerning the revolution.
Yes, thank you, Your Grace.
And one more thing, the proof is that afterwards, at 1835, the first Greek nation, when they try to set the date of the celebration of the revolution, like 25th of March, beforehand it was either celebrated on the 1st of January or at the 25th of February. But because of the Peloponnesians and the Messenians, as I wrote, and the second, because of the memory of Patriarch Gregory V and his role in the revolution, they assigned the revolution together with religious feast. So if we accept that Patriarch Gregory V, according to the Greeks of 1835, like 14 years after the revolution, they honor him by putting the revolution on the 25th of March, then we are to understand that he definitely played a significant role in favor of the revolution.
Thank you, Your Grace. Also, just to add to that, Father Stavros, I believe Father Stavros Hadis, my father.
Yes, yes, of course.
And also, he said he believes the Patriarch Gregory V also wanted to avoid the slaughter of the Hellenic residents of Constantinople at the time, which happened nonetheless. And that's also true that, you know, people don't appreciate the difficult position that he would be in, being in Turkey, you know, not having the support of the Greeks, you know, across the way, and knowing that there was going to be a backlash, right? Which is something that actually our patriarch, to a certain degree, still experiences today. Our patriarchate still being in a Turkish country, in a predominantly Muslim country, where he still feels the oppression, and it's a very difficult position to be in because you have to look after your own flock while at the same time secretly trying to support what's going on in the outside. Right? So it's
exactly.
difficult.
And let's not forget, he would never had such an end if he was really against the Turks would have used him accordingly if he was really against the revolution, right?
Yes.
There was also something here from Father Apostolos, who had researched that Patriarch Gregory, he kind of opposed it, probably deliberately, with the Friendly Society, because he did feel coerced, as you had mentioned, Father Paraskevopoulos. But there was also a report by Alexandros Xylandis, where he had sent to Souliotis at the Souliotes at Yanina, and had said for them to not believe it because it could have just been deliberately done by Patriarch Gregory V to avoid slaughter, as it was mentioned. Furthermore, according to the demographics, and this is according to Wikipedia, where the question was asked what the population was at approximately 1821, it has here 900 and almost 40,000 population in Greece. However, I think because of the occupancy of the Ottoman Empire, I don't think that they were all Greeks. I could be mistaken, could be researched more, but that's what the population was, the demographics was at that time.
Thank you for that. One more question I think we have, and it's the last one, is what role did the Annunciation play in the beginning of the revolution? I don't know, maybe Your Grace can answer that one again. The Feast of the Annunciation?
Oh, right, yes. So this, I think I wrote something. First of all, from Ypsilantis, the first date of the revolution was set on the 25th of March, if I remember correctly. In some place, it was to start earlier in February, but it didn't. Again, as I've read that the Greeks were celebrating either the 1st of January or the 25th of February, or even on Easter time. I think, the official proclamation of the Messinian elders towards the European countries, though, refers to the 25th of March as the general date that the revolution began. So I think from this, we celebrate two revolutions. One, our national revolution, and secondly, the revolution with Christ, against the revolution against sin and death. And if we generally read the writings of the heroes, then we will see that the Annunciation was, the role of Annunciation was one that inspired, people religiously in order to revolt.
Thank you, Your Grace. So on that's the end of our questions, and we're going to wrap it up now with just two last things. I think it's important, and since we didn't do it at the beginning because we kind of had a little bit of we started a little bit later, it's important to listen and even sing our national anthems. So we're going to play the national anthems, the Greek national anthem, and also the Canadian national anthem, and then we're going to have a closing prayer from Bishop Athenavoras. Well, Your Grace, could you please lead us in our closing prayer before we say goodbye to everybody?
Yes, again, thank you very much, everyone who's been here tonight with us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Father. Everything was amazing. Very, in some points, I got very emotional, actually. And yeah.
Thank you, Your Grace, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the fathers first for all their hard work, for all the research that they did, because, you know, like the videos are easy to do. It's the research that goes into it and kind of putting together all the information. But thank to all of you, because at one point I think we had like 65 people on. So that's a really amazing thing. And thank you for participating, at least in this limited form. God bless all of you. Kalisa Rakosti. May we have a blessed end of our Paschal journey, and especially a Kali Anastasi. I know we still have a few weeks away, but wherever you are, stay safe. God bless you, and we hope to be able to celebrate all together our Lord's resurrection. So again,
Amen.
and take care, everybody.
Thank you, fathers. Thank you, your grace. Kalisi Nechia.